Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Zach Celadonia.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma. Joining me for some feedback on this Steelers 37-30 loss to the Cincinnati Bengals. One, Zach Flash Celadonia. Zach, I got some extra coffee, my friend. I needed it. A little bit of took like the 24-hour rule on this one personally myself before I really wanted to discuss it. I was going to ask how you're doing. I'm not talking about the game when I ask. I'm asking about you personally. How you doing?
Me personally, I'm great. I never better. It sucks anytime that your team loses. And yesterday, 30-37 sounds pretty good. That, all things considered, the bar that we've set for ourselves this season.
Yeah.
30-37 doesn't sound too bad. It's just the way in which the Steelers lost yesterday, I think, is the real kicker. But you didn't ask about that. You asked about me, and I'm doing great.
Yeah. We're getting there, right? Who would have thunk it? Steelers score 30 points on offense and lose, right? Who would have thought that? But I guess the defense, that's something that's like, this is another one of those total team collapse type deals, because you know where we're headed right away. And it's Kenny Pickett, of course. There was a guy behind us yesterday, myself and my cousin. And my cousin did a total, like, I don't know if it's a 360, a 180, whichever way you go on Mitch Trubisky, right? And this guy was like, put on Mitch Trubisky. He was so trashed. It was hilarious. And the compound matters to make it even funnier. He's wearing a Devin Bush jersey. So it's just like, but
He's
he was
all
like,
over the place.
yeah, I got to give, like I said, I always listen to the post-game stuff. Stan Savver and Charlie Batch, they use the word apologists, and I will never use that word for us. We don't have anything to apologize with our takes. The way the Steelers are, and they mentioned this, they said, if they had Mitch Trubisky playing instead of Kenny Pickett, would the record be any different? Would they have more wins? Would they have more losses? Or would they be about the same as where they are? They'd be about the same as where they are because it wasn't all on the quarterback, and it hasn't been the entire time all on the quarterback. It does help having a quarterback that may take some chances, this, that, or the other thing. Kenny, it's like a tale of two halves. Kenny Pickett, I thought, this team looked great, dare I say, in the first half of this football game. You had Kenny Pickett 14-19, 141 yards, and a touchdown pass, 112 quarterback rating. That was only like shortly behind what Burrow was. Burrow was 14-20, had 2 touchdown passes for a 113.3. They were neck and neck through this first half, and then, of course, the collapse that would happen. But there was enough problems offensively, defensively, and on special teams to cover in this game than to try and sound like a Kenny Pickett apologist. There were some things I would like to see different from him as well, but those, like, solely place the blame on his shoulders, I think is unfair. And to just kind of throw this out real quick too, like, listening to anybody outside of Pittsburgh, I caught Charlie Weiss on, Solomon Wilcott's doing the Sirius XM morning show this morning, right? And Charlie Weiss says, Pittsburgh's not going to take much to bounce back. It might not be this season. He's like, but they've got some nice pieces in place. He had some complimentary things to say about Kenny Pickett. He said, Najee Harris starting to look like how he was a first-round pick, decent tight end, maybe a star in the making with George Pickens and some other role players there. They've got some things to fix, obviously reflective of their record. But he said, this isn't like a 3-4 year turnaround. And that's kind of where I'm at, Zach, is that people have this instant gratification type deal. And they expect Kenny Pickett to just come in and win boatloads of games right away on his arm. That was never my expectation. That was never my expectation when replacing Ben Roethlisberger. And I'm actually of the opinion that Kenny Pickett is probably further along in this process as a rookie than I would have expected. It's just that my expectations are probably a lot more in line and realistic with what goes on with developing an NFL level quarterback versus what a lot of the, couch quarterbacks would have to say about that.
Yeah, there's a difference between apologizing and explaining, and I think that's what we've been trying to do on this show since Kenny was given the nod. And nobody is apologizing away his mistakes. We both have acknowledged on this show that he's been making plenty of mistakes, rookie mistakes. But there's a difference between people that want to apologize it away and take the blame completely off of him, and between what we're doing, which is just explaining that he's young, he's a rookie, he's going to make mistakes, he's going to be gun shy at times, he's going to make a mistake that he'll have to learn from later, and hopefully he does. And I think yesterday was pretty good evidence that Kenny is learning from his mistakes and getting better, because we saw undoubtedly his best first half of football yesterday. In the first half of the game, he had a good rating over 100, like you said. I know that I saw this on Twitter actually, but Big Ben had 16 games, right, that he played as a rookie. Kenny's passer rating yesterday was better than 8 of those games from Ben.
I saw that too.
Kenny's getting better. He's getting better. And in 2004, the Steelers were 28th in passing at the end of the season. Even though Ben helped lead us to an undefeated record as a rookie, we were the 28th ranked passing attack. Right now, we're 23rd under Kenny Pickett. So I think perspective is very important when looking at how Kenny Pickett's rookie season is going. And I am taking offense to the people that keep acting like what we're doing is wrong. Like there's something like we're keeping Kenny Pickett hidden away, protected. And it's like we're admitting and saying flat out that this kid is making mistakes, but you have to let him make those mistakes. That's how you get performances like yesterday.
Yeah. Can I interject real quick? There were people that like have called into these shows, and you see it on Twitter and stuff, and they want to put him in bubble wrap and bench him for the rest of the year because they'll destroy it's just going to ruin his confidence if he keeps playing.
Idiots, dude.
They are absolutely ridiculous because ruin his confidence. And I'm glad Stan was one of the ones that said this, or maybe even Charlie Batch. Charlie Batch has just been on this like kick with since the Jets game. I told everybody because Kenny finally played and there's no way going back, and he seems to hold like some animosity about Kenny Pickett in general versus Mitch Trubisky. But aside from that, you're going to destroy the guy's confidence by benching him. That's a big confidence booster, right? And you absolutely nailed it. That's why I wanted to interject is you got to rip the Band-Aid off, and you have to have experience, whether it's good or bad experience. He has to get experience. He has to get these game reps, or he'll never be who you want him to be. But people want to bench him and not give him this experience. No, you're going to go through this wave. Aaron Rodgers took 3 years to get on the field. His first year, not so hot. He wasn't Aaron Rodgers yet, and that's going through the sit him behind, future Hall of Famer, veteran type guy with Brett Favre, and he didn't get any experience. So he still had, that first year in the NFL where he was actually playing, where he needed that experience in order to become the guy that he was. So carry on. We're on the right page here.
Yeah, it's to get better at football, you have to play football. Imagine that. I know people are saying the same thing about Justin Fields now in Chicago because he finally is getting it and playing at a high level. And now there are these people, these crybabies saying, well, maybe they should take Justin Fields out and sit him for the rest of the year because the Bears suck so bad. No, man, you got to keep letting these kids play and get better. That's how you're getting the good results. I know that the Steelers couldn't finish the job yesterday. They weren't able to win the game. But that first half of football, we saw people want to deny it. They can if they want to, but that was the most excited that the entire fan base has been all season long after that first half of football, short of beating the Bengals and then beating the Buccaneers. Yesterday's first half was the most excited I had seen any Steeler fan in a long time. And Kenny Pickett helped give us that. He had a really good first half, and second half was worse. But it was worse for the entire team. It was a complementary collapse across offense, defense, and special teams. Pass rush was awful. The running game went to total shit in the second half. Yeah, George Pickens dropped that pass late, albeit if he would have caught it, we still would have had to get the onside kick to give us a chance. But And Kenny made mistakes too because he missed Pickens open. I know that George fell down, but if I'm judging it from my couch, like all I can do, it looked like Kenny threw it to the wrong side because Pickens had to turn around. But at the end of the day, was that Kenny's fault or was that Pickens' fault? I know I sound like an apologist now, but was Pickens running the right route? Was he running in the right direction?
And you don't know.
I don't know that.
You don't know that. The only people who know that are the ones behind closed doors.
But that was and that was one mistake is my point. It's like even though I don't know if that was on Kenny or not, it looked like it was. That was his worst mistake of the game.
Oh,
and if that's like even the best quarterbacks miss a good deep shot. The best receivers will drop a pass. So I'm not going to sit here and crucify Kenny because he missed Pickens on that deep shot, especially when George repaid the favor, for lack of a better term, and dropped that ball late. So I think arguing about Kenny is irrelevant at this point because he was nowhere near the problem yesterday. I know you and I aren't arguing. I'm talking like in a general.
Oh no, yeah.
Pull him out now. It's like, dude, that ship has sailed. That ship has sailed, and the dock has exploded behind it. You can't pull back into port and bench Kenny. Just let the season finish out. Hopefully, we can get some. We can get repeat performances of yesterday's first half and grow from there because the Steelers, like Charlie Weiss said, and like you said briefly there, the roster still has good pieces. They aren't that far off. And that's loser talk, but we're a losing team this year, so we can say things like that. There's still good pieces on the roster. The vibes are just off. The vibes aren't right, whether it's starting at the head with the offensive coaching or it's defensive guys not buying in anymore, and some guys have good games. Some guys disappear for a few games. Some guys are playing through injuries. I think, and this is blasphemous coming from a Steelers fan, but I think TJ Watt was pretty invisible yesterday. And I don't think that means he is on the decline, but I think he's very clearly playing injured. So, but he's still a good player. So there's good pieces all around this team. There's still elite pieces around this team like TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward. But they need to just go forward after this year and build upon it because I don't see us righting the ship enough that we're going to end up finishing the year where everybody's just rainbows and unicorns and happy about the state of affairs the Steelers are in. But there's enough here to be optimistic about the future. Absolutely.
Well, part of that future with me is you've got people already talking about the draft. And I'm sick of hearing about how, well, this wasn't a strong quarterback draft. So why did they take Pickett? This will just be a wasted pick. What if they have a high pick and it's a better draft class next year? There's no guarantee that that pick next year will flourish to be even as good as what Kenny is right now at this moment. That's what drives me crazy. And a lot of us felt that the Steelers might not draft a quarterback or the class was weak. This is the reason why the class is weak. And there was this perspective at pick 20 overall with the Pittsburgh Steelers because everyone and their brother thought that the pick would be Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder, not Kenny Pickett. No one thought that Kenny Pickett was going to fall to pick number 20. Kenny Pickett was head and shoulders above the rest of this quarterback class, and he was the guy, probably the only one that teams had a first round grade on. And this is just clever, of course, rewriting of the history. There's plenty of details that came out that said there would have been some suitors that would have probably traded back into the late part of the first round if Pickett continued to slide. So he would not have been there like many people think, oh, second round, third round pick. No, you want to see how some of those picks actually play. Go look at Tennessee with Malik Willis actually trying to struggle and try and play. But there are plenty. You could go through practically the last decade's worth of first round quarterback picks and tell me how many of those were surefire outside of maybe the top number one overall pick of the drafts. And you could even debate that with Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I was more or less saying Joe Burrow, cooked the Steelers for 355 yards and 4 touchdowns and made Samjay Perine look like Jerry Rice out there. The defense had some issues, definitely, but I'm going to get back to that in a second. You're right, George, not only George Pickens, others dropped some passes. I was disappointed with Pat Freiermuth some yesterday, I won't lie. Najee had an opportunity, so they've got to help their quarterback some. He didn't complete quite. He was a 0.5% off of completing 60% of his passes was Pickett, but he completed over 60% of them in the first half, So
I'm
it's
happy with what I'm seeing from Kenny
yeah.
Pickett.
Oh, I was
I can say that. I can sit here
I
and
was
say that.
happy
I'm
with the
happy
whole
with what I'm
first half.
seeing from him, despite the way the second half went yesterday. I know some people aren't. Some people want more. They want like immediate return, but that depends on your definition of immediate return, because I think we are witnessing steps being made, and I think we're witnessing positive things happening for Kenny Pickett, but some people just won't be satisfied. I'm not of that camp. I'm happy with what I've seen. I do want more. It doesn't mean I'm complacent, but based off of the past few games, he's making steps, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is a lot of the skill position players, such as Pat Freiermuth, I'm you gotta. This is tough, and this sounds apologetic, but you also got to remember that he's playing in an NFL speed for the first time. Kenny Pickett is. There's going to be dudes with their hands up in his face, and the offensive line was like, I really have a problem with the offensive line. Like, are they better? Sometimes, yes. Have they been bad? The edges were getting beat like drums. Trey Hendrickson was having his way yesterday. Sam Hubbard was getting some pressure. DJ Reader was back. None of this is apologetic.
It's freaking good, but that doesn't change the fact that our line's freaking bad most of the time.
And he's under duress. So, but you also have bad play calls. So again, going to the Charlie Weiss type thing, there's flashes, but I think once a few of these things get patched up, I know guys like Stan and Charlie disagree in their post game, and a bad team has more than, when you're drafting that high, you have more than one problem or issue to fix. And I just don't see it the same way. I'm sorry. And I don't see them jumping the gun and doing, everybody brings up Arizona with Josh Rosen going, and Kyler Murray drafted back-to-back seasons, first round picks. And I just don't see the Steelers doing something like that. I mean, that's really jumping the gun when there's still 7 games left this season to evaluate. And then other people, like I said, wanting to pull them off the field and do what? You're like, oh, the season's a lost cause. That's usually when you put the rookies in and the other players to see what they can do. And if you're able to do that, and they don't have a whole lot of newness to really try other people out in a lot of these positions. Kelvin Austin wasn't able to come back off of IR, for example. So that's not somebody that's going to get a lot of PT, a lot of reps. Maybe DeMarvin Leal, if he's in that window and he comes back and maybe he gets more playing time or something like that. But the evaluation, I think the evaluation's already there. You got your core set of players, and your offensive line is going to be, once again, needed to be upgraded, because you can't just, my problem with Kenny yesterday, the only real problem was, I mean, the first half looked great. It was great to see the Steelers kind of just, it was 3-0, then 3-3, 42-yard field goal. Matt Wright, not a thing to complain about really with him. Perrine, who comes in for Joe Mixon, goes into concussion protocol, right? I identified this even from going back to last week or a week before and watching some of the Bengals games. When they lost Jamar Chase, they pretty much leaned exclusively on using Joe Mixon more. He was running the ball more. He was more involved in the pass game. And the Steelers just had no answer for him, for just whichever running back was just going out in the flat, hitting the little wheel routes. They had no answer for it the entire day, and I couldn't figure it out. You got people saying, well, they need to draft a number 1 corner. That's not what was eating them alive. The inside linebackers still continue to be an issue in coverage, and for whatever reason, your best coverage quarterback linebacker, not cornerback, appears to be Robert Spillane for some reason, which is not the guy that you really want out there running sideline to sideline. He's just not that guy. Miles Jack, for whatever reason, isn't that guy either, and Devin Bush hasn't been that guy since being hurt. And there were some looks from the defense that looked halfway decent. They started to put everybody up and press on the line with maybe one safety, or almost like a zero blitz type look. Those look like some Brian Flores imprints on the defense. But overall, I mean, like you said, like we were saying, the first half, 10-3, Steelers come right back. Najee Harris, 19-yard run, diving for the pylon, tie it up 10-10. Bengals go back 17-10. It's a slugfest. George Pickens gets a 24-yard touchdown pass from Pickett, 17-17. And
that's what you want to see, with Najee being explosive, Pickens being explosive, Jesus, and Kenny Pickett making smart plays and good throws. That was like a little taste of the future, just a little suck off the tit.
Yeah. Can you milk a cat, fucker?
Yeah.
I had the little teats, but And I was milking them. What a great movie. But anyways, 20-17. I mean, they scored twice in under 2 minutes, 147. And then as the time
Exactly.
expired, go into halftime with a 3-point lead and getting the ball. They deferred. They're getting the ball to start the second half. This is like every coaches, fans, football players, like wet dream is to be up and then maybe go up 2 scores because you get the ball to start the second half. And the second half just went right in the crapper. And I'm not sorry. We've already said we're on for Matt Canada. Steelers signed their coaches for 3 years, 3-year deals. Typically, this is his second year as the OC. He was a quarterbacks coach in his first year with the team. So this is effectively year 3. He will be not fired, but probably not renewed from all indications. And it's just the play calling wasn't very creative. Who was it? Was it Pratt or Logan Wilson? Jermaine Pratt or Wilson was saying after the game from the Bengals that, well, the Steelers run the same 5, 6, whatever plays. So it's real easy to defend against. And,
It was
that's
Jermaine Pratt.
was it Jermaine Pratt? I can't disagree with him. I'm not going to say they're all the same plays, but as has been said, Matt Canada's play calling and playing with the lead and everything else has been not creative. And another thing, the people, like I said, the only problem I had with Kenny, and this is coming back to full circle with Matt Canada, the reason why I wanted to mention is Kenny at one point would probably use his feet a little more. And it's almost been like since he got like knocked out of the game a little while ago, and he still took a cheap shot in Buffalo when he slid. It was like, okay, we'd prefer you just get rid of the ball. And it's also with the turnover type thing. It's a little bit maybe playing too safe. He needs like a happy medium in the middle. Now it's like gone too far in the other direction of playing it safe and getting rid of the ball, which I don't have necessarily the biggest problem with. Live to fight another down. But some of that backyard play is what will make him great. It's what made Ben Roethlisberger great as a rookie. It was the scrambling around and being able to extend plays and get the job done there. And you see a little bit of that, like George Pickens broke off of a route and was able to continue on. There's stuff that's going to be left on the field. And unfortunately, when you're running some of these plays, when you kind of like roll out or bootleg to one side, you're cutting the field in half, you're cutting the field into like thirds or whatever. And it's just, it's not complimentary to what was working in the first half. They ran a play. It was more like an RPO, and even that got screwed up, I think, in the second half. There was, you mentioned TJ Watt was invisible, but he had like the craziest interception that I've seen probably in my life. That's buried like almost like
that
Troy.
was a good play. I meant more like going after the back, but yeah, that was a good play.
It's almost like Troy jumping over the pile against the Titans type play that you're going to play back. And he did something very similar in week 1 against Joe Burrow as well. I thought Minka was going to get one too. He was pretty close. Minka's always kind of like in Burrow's head. And it sucks. You force 2 turnovers. Kenny doesn't turn the ball over at all, but you have small mistakes by your offensive line, either where we're saying the tackles are getting beat or you've got holding, and then you have an illegal man downfield, and you got some of these things happening because for whatever reason, people don't know what their assignment is or what they're supposed to be doing. Looked like Najee ran without the ball on a play. The flea flicker play, which genius if it works, fool when it doesn't. This looked like fool because it didn't fool anybody. It was too quick. It just didn't get executed properly.
I think it's a dumb call regardless. And I'll say that even if it works, dude, I'll admit that. That's like with my dad. My dad hates whenever they do the quick wide receiver screen to the outside. Most people do. And even after it works, these people will be like, I still hate that play. Glad it worked for a first down. And I can resonate with that
play
because
with the
when
passion.
they called the flea flicker, I was freaking out, man. The offense has no flow. Matt Canada has achieved the amazing accomplishment of being like super predictable, yet having no flow whatsoever on offense. Meaning it's the same, like, 10 to 12 plays, jet sweep every other play, but it's so predictable, yet ironically, there's no freaking flow to what they're doing on offense. Kenny will rip off a beautiful 30-yard pass or whatever to George Pickens, so they'll run a trick play the next play. Najee Harris will have a nice 9-yard run. They'll do a double reverse jet sweep.
Just lose 3 yards.
Just run simple football, man. Just play football, dude. This team isn't good enough right now for you to be getting cute, for you to be pulling all the tricks out and pulling out all the stops. Just accomplish the little things first. Get consistent first downs, consistent scoring drives. It's like Canada gets one little glimpse of positive yardage, and he's like, "Oh, let's do a receiver pass." Like, just let us get some consistency, man. And he's like, he's so resistant to it.
Yeah, I get when you're backed up like within your own 10. What did Steve Sims muffing a ball on one of the returns early? Like just some self-defeating things that go on in these games. And that's how the second half started out, man. It was a 1 yard pass to Deontay Johnson. 1 yard. Najee Harris, you know what's coming next. It's a run play. Like, I mean, and then it's incomplete. Tried to find Sims. That one looked like it was, I think that was more of a miscommunication there. And you did get Bresley Harvin to actually kick one decently, but he's been inconsistent enough that I'm out too. For the most part,
they need to find a new punter in the offseason.
Yeah, for the most part, though, Steelers bottle up the Bengals on the next drive, but they get the ball. The Steelers get the ball on their own. Let's see, they're on their own 9. So obviously it's going to be a run play. Then it's a short pass to Freiermuth. It ends up being another 3 and out, only a 39-yard punt. That was the invalid fair catch signal. I have to give this lady in the stands like a bow. She knew the rule. She knew the illegal fair catch like rule. Almost like she was reading it out of the playbook.
He was like, "Can you do that, dude?" And I was like,
"No, you can't." But she was like, she was on top of it. Like, but we're all sitting there like having that like brain fart thought, like, you know, the drunk think, and you're like, she knew it, like bang, just like that, snap of the fingers. I was like, all right, I'd like to buy you a beer. But
yeah, that's why it's a fair catch, not a fair catch it on the roll.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Bengals end up getting back in this. They run 7 plays, 59 yards from their own 41. That was after this one, where it was only a 39-yard punt since he's 46. No gain on that, and then only a 5-yard penalty on the illegal fair catch or invalid fair catch, as it's invalid fair catch signal, as it's called. It's not one you see very often because these are professional football players, and it shouldn't be. But it was a 3rd and 5 situation. Burrow finds Hayden Hurst for 7 yards. Samjay Perine goes for 8 yards. Deep pass, 33 yards to T. Higgins, who just carved up the Steelers defense. T. Higgins finishes the day catching 9 of 13 targets for 148 yards. They didn't even need.
Dude. He's such a baller.
He is. And you know what's sad? I nearly played him and Tony Pollard in DraftKings. I ended up, I think, pulling both of them. I went on a double stack with the Bills receivers, which didn't work out the way I would have liked. And Alec Pierce no, I'm sorry, Damian Pierce. Alec Pierce is the wide receiver, the running back for the Texans. Oink. Oh, man, bad game. Jalen Warren.
Man, I have him. He cost me some bragging rights against my friend. He had a dud. Foreman had a dud. It was a bad day for my first place team. Not first place anymore, but yeah, a lot of duds yesterday from some superstar names, superstars in the fantasy world anyway. And Higgins went off. I was not excited to see that. It sucks that he's on the Bengals, but in my head, I have that little alert that goes off. Like, yep, I was right about him.
It's you and the wide receiver swag. That's what it is.
Takes one to know one.
Yeah, well, you know, if people aren't aware here, Flash, it's like if you got the visor game going, a clean uniform with the clean number, you're on top of all that, and it's extra swaggy when they the sauce. We may do the sauce now. The sauce is what's in. It's like just the extra sauce.
It's extra saucy when you got 100 yards on top.
It's a spicy too.
You feel good, you play good. I am 100% a believer in that.
Yeah, that goes down to the Steelers 6, by the way. So they end up scoring like right after this. Burrow throws a touchdown pass. It's 24-20. So what do the Steelers do to respond? Steve Sims right in for a loss of 3 yards on first down. Pickett, incomplete pass attempt deep. And then short middle, Zach Gentry, and they punt again. This one was a 54-yard punt at least.
It's no flow, dude. No flow.
And then what happens right after this? TJ Watt, interception. Boom, get the ball immediately. Right back on the 21. 3 and out again. This one play, it went toward Zach Gentry. I don't think he was the primary read on it. I sure as hell hope he wasn't. It didn't. To me, it didn't seem like he was, and I forget who was running short there. It might have been Connor Hayward. They might have put out some bigs and then rolled it out almost like a play action.
Hayward was out there a good bit, I noticed, 83.
And he wasn't targeted enough. Was he targeted at all?
No, I don't think so. I noticed him doing pre-snap motion a lot.
Yeah, he wasn't. I could actually tell you how many snaps he was in, too. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. The other Hayward. Well, he played 4. I guess he played fewer than I thought. Derek Watt was actually out there for 7 snaps. Gunnar Olszewski played 31, by the way. Also didn't help that J.C. Hassenauer had to come in for Mason Cole when we're talking about the heat that they were putting on Kenny Pickett. That
What
sucked.
happened to Mason Cole?
Something with his foot, but I guess in the post game he said he was going to be okay.
Okay.
So nothing to be like too overly concerned of. Hopefully he'll be back. They get an extra day of rest because it's a Monday Night Football game after the holidays. Indoors, Steelers get to play indoors on the road the next 2 weeks. Indianapolis and then Atlanta. Both of those teams, they're kind of mid too. So we'll see. It's kind of like it's not like we didn't have the Bengals pegged from the beginning of the season as being a competitive team that would be difficult to defeat. So splitting games with them, I'm all right with. It just sucks that you know that this game could have been handled differently. And the Steelers giving up 7 plays, 59 yards, and a touchdown there in the third quarter off of the heels of 2 3-and-outs from the offense is what sucks. It's both sides of the ball. And then Evan McPherson, this is McPherson. No, this is the interception. I'm sorry. McPherson wasn't in this just yet. Steelers end up down only 1. Matthew Wright, 34-yard field goal because the Steelers couldn't punch it in from third and 4. I was yelling yesterday, man. Terrible towel, arms sore from twirling the towel, everything else. It was 29 freaking degrees out there, which
You can't even tell. You sound good, dude. Whenever I go to a game, I sound like the girl from The Ring.
you've got to take breaks in the middle and wash it down with a Yingling. So
That's a key. That's a secret.
Absolutely. That's the way it's got to work. But trading a field goal for instead of touchdowns, you're down a point. I get it. You're not going to take points off the board. But the exact quotes that we were coming up with during this third quarter of ugliness was, just like you were saying, getting cute, outsmarting yourself. That's exactly what Matt Canada is doing, is outsmarting himself. And it's like your game plan and your game script was great. Somebody there must be helping formalize or format this right now, because when you go off script and you're in the second half, we've seen it 2 weeks in a row. I didn't feel necessarily very comfortable about the offense in the Saints game throughout the entire game either. Just kind of thinking, it's like we talked about this. You fire Canada now, and it's like you make Mike Sullivan the OC, which he's been an OC before, I believe with more than one team. But still, like, you don't install a whole new playbook or anything like that. The only thing you could do is maybe get a little more creative with what you're doing, and you understand what you're doing is not working. Steelers get the ball right before the end of the third quarter. Evan McPherson, 54-yard field goal. It sucks they couldn't push them further out of field goal range. I mean, Cam Hayward tried. He got the sack on Burrow for a loss of 3. They had a new holder there because we were talking about punters. Kevin Huber wasn't out there, longtime veteran. So Drew Chrisman, from undrafted rookie free agent from Ohio State, was punting yesterday, holding. Thought maybe there could have been some like room for error there. Laces are out or whatever, Finkel, right? And he didn't get the same effect. Nope. Nailed 54 yards. But first down. Najee gets 5 yards on first down. So you know what? Let's try it again and gain 1. And it's like now all of a sudden you're just in third. I don't mind third and manageable sometimes when you're dealing with a rookie quarterback and you're going through some growing pains, but it still stands to reason that Pickett had 42 attempts in this game. And Najee had 20 carries for 90 yards, 4.5 apiece. You didn't have Jalen Warren because Jalen Warren got hurt. I struggle to think what they could have done differently. The Steelers get the ball at Cincinnati's. You play Renegade, and you have the Bengals basically go 3 and out. You get the ball almost at the 50-yard line. It was at Cincinnati's 47. And this is where it goes all to hell. Najee Harris runs for 13 yards on first down. First down run, and they couldn't stop it. It was like, wow, okay, I'll take it this time. Let's try it again. 3 yards and Freiermuth holding. And it's just like, okay, let's back him up.
Turn Renegade into a ringtone.
Yeah, pretty much. And you're trying to get George Pickens involved here, and J.C. Hassenauer is an ineligible downfield because it looked like this was supposed to be a run play as well.
Yeah.
There were a couple
plays.
plays.
Play by Kenny. I mean, good on him. But yeah, illegal.
Yeah. And it's Hassenauer who's subbing in for Cole. So it seems like you get one of these every single game. Now you're in a first and 25 and 2 incomplete passes, and then the draw play. Okay, the draw play was from the 49. And I think I understand what you're trying to do maybe with the draw play here. And I've been called an apologist from many people who I was saying this already because people were upset with this. But you see teams do this. Usually it's to gain a little bit of extra space if you can. when you're backed up toward your end zone. But you want to draw a play to try and play more field position battle. You're at the middle of the field, and if you gain something halfway decent off of this, maybe you still kind of go for it on fourth down because you take a deep shot and it's almost a punt. Take the deep shot on third down. You never know what's going to happen. You might get a pass interference call. You might complete something. But I also understand like the Canada play calling, living in his fears and being conservative deal is you're watching Kenny run around for his life a little bit here. Does he have enough time to be able to actually put a play together to complete something or take a shot downfield when you need 25 yards to gain? And my answer to that is no.
They're in a can't-win situation with that because, playing the field position game is a smart call in certain games, and it does work to your advantage in certain games. But the Steelers and Bengals were coming to a point in that game yesterday where field position wasn't going to win you the game. The Bengals were finding their groove on offense, and the Steelers were finding less of a groove on offense and defense. So it was just an unwinnable battle at that point because you can't play the field position. The Bengals will take advantage of you. If you don't go for the field position and you go for it and we don't get it, then they're going to have it in better position. So at that point in the game, it really just seemed like the momentum, even though they played Renegade recently, had switched over to the Bengals side almost completely. And you see games like this across the NFL every Sunday where it starts off as a shootout, kind of, sort of, tit for tat, going back and forth, touchdown here, touchdown there, tied at half, or like a one possession game at half. And then one team slowly but surely pulls away into the distance in the second half. And it's happened to the Steelers so many times because whenever they can get lucky and salvage some type of offensive success, sure enough, they find a way to screw it up in the second half. And there's blame all around, but it starts at the top. And that's what I mean when I talk about there's no flow to this team with the offense. It's like they see stuff work before their eyes and then they go away from it. I know you can't run the same play back to back, but they make it a lot harder than it needs to be. The Steelers offensive staff, I mean.
Yeah. And Batch has been saying this a lot. 4 quarterbacks in this system. Everything always looks the same. Ben, Mason, Mitch, and now Kenny. All the same. That's kind of, now we are where we are. And that's where some of the people are like, well, you go back to Mitch, and Mitch wasn't given the fair. Now let that ship sailed. Sorry, gone. Goodbye. But
Doc's blown up.
Doc's blown up. Cannot go to port. Boats and hose.
I produce a court.
Man. That's yeah. I was gonna say that's so offensive. Yeah. Deadliest catch without the crabs. But anyway, this whole like 3rd and 25 thing that blew up in their face. Now you get a 35-yard punt from Presley Harvin because you have to, and it gets down to the Bengals 7, and they drive 8 plays, 93 yards. The defense they did their job, and then it was up to the offense. The offense failed. Now the defense fails, and now the door slammed shut on you. 34-23. Steelers will try at one point here.
Complimentary collapse. I keep saying it because now you're getting all these people arguing everywhere on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, whatever. It's turned into it's not the defense's fault. They played their hearts out, and then but they collapsed in the second half. And then it's people, but if the offense was better, it's everybody. It's everybody.
It is. I can't disagree with you at all when it comes to that. And it's just it's unfortunate because you saw glimpses, and we've always said, like, many times, these games can be a tale of two halves. And they were able to get some of the splash plays. They were able to produce some turnovers. They were able to force some 3-and-outs, and it just didn't end up being enough ultimately in the end. These Steelers get the ball back, and they go for it on a 4th down also, and just they couldn't make it happen. Let me see where I'm at here in the game. So Evan McPherson already. Oh, that's what it was. They go for it on 4th down right after this. So the Bengals had gone up on that 8-play, 93-yard drive. Almost a 3-and-out here. It's 4th and 9. Steelers are going to go for it from their 28 anyways. They kind of feel, I guess, you're down 11 points. So this ended up turning out into the Bengals just ran the ball and played super conservative and took what was right in front of them, which ended up being an Evan McPherson 44-yard field goal to go up 37-23. Wise use of clock or time management, though, by the Steelers with the timeouts. They end up getting the ball back with about 3:13 remaining, but then Pickett gets sacked on the very first play, and you're just like, oh, geez, here we go again. Then there were some pass completions. He caught Freiermuth for 9 yards, Harris for 11, Freiermuth again for 9, went deep for George Pickens with about 2 minutes. There would have been about a minute and 50 seconds on that if George would have been able to connect. Now, on one of the ones that George didn't come down with, I believe that was the Freiermuth. There may have been a penalty from someone, Freiermuth or someone otherwise. I can't remember which one that was. But something would have been negated anyway, I do believe. If I'm remembering correctly from sitting there, but Brad Allen and his crew.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the play exactly, but yeah, there's like alerts going off in my brain right now that something along those lines did happen where either George didn't catch it or he dragged his feet late, and then there was a penalty anyway. So yeah, there was something like that.
It wouldn't have mattered. Yeah, and it didn't end up mattering. Now this one would have, and then Cincinnati would have needed to at least get a first down to probably run the entire clock out the rest of the way if he would have scored right on that, which would have been surprising because so many people had emptied out of the stadium. Matt Wright actually had a pretty nice onside kick attempt where the ball bounced and hopped up. That's like, those aren't high converting plays to begin with. It's not very often that many teams convert, especially when they did the whole balancing rule where you got to have like the equal amount of people on each side of the ball and stuff like that. It just made it impossible to try and get the ball
good
back
on TV, though. You're right. From my perspective on my couch, it looked like the Steelers had a shot at the onside kick, which sucks. You'd almost rather them not have a shot at it than miss it.
I know. And it goes back to that huge 93-yard play, and it's like, I know the Bengals were playing off a little bit, and this is kind of garbage time stuff, but this actually looked like Kenny was connecting pretty decent. He found Gunnar Olszewski for a pretty big gainer. These are the same type of plays that Ben used to do late in games too, where he'd find somebody like Juju for a scamper or something like that, and you think the game's over, and all of a sudden, no, they're still in it, maybe game-winning drives. So I'm not going to slam the door shut and say anything bad about this. I'm going to take this as a positive there. Seven losses. It's kind of tough because you have no room for error, no room for margin here. Bengals would have been 0-4 in the division and completely out of it, and the Steelers probably best path to having any hopes of making the postseason. They would need an awful lot of help to be in this conversation at the near end, even I think if they win out, so you could pretty much reside their fate right there. Like Tomlin could still be above 500, though. I'll just throw that one out there. But
people will love that.
Oh, they would. Like 9-8 season, they would go absolutely ballistic. They would go bonkers, and I'm here for it. I'm absolutely here for it to rub their nose in it. But like I said, it's still, the Ravens didn't do so hot against the Panthers. There was a few games that were highly questionable.
They almost got beat. Yeah.
Yeah. The Vikings got smoked by the Cowboys, and there's just some interesting football. The Colts only lost by a point to the Eagles, which is worrisome when you're looking ahead here. So just some programming notes. We got some turkey to eat later this week, so we'll see who all is available and isn't like completely knocked out from the tryptophan and other holiday spirits. And we'll see what's going on. Biggest drinking week of the year, so we got to be careful. I'm not quite the young buck that I used to be, so that's kind of, I'm still a little out of it from just yesterday's tailgating, but some of that's just the weather, man. Oh my goodness, it's just
every weekend during football season is the biggest drinking weekend of the night or of the year for me, baby. I fucked that up. You know what I
meant? Absolutely. But yeah, so just a programming note: if you don't hear from us, that's because Zach was just fired for another F-bomb, and I've got
coming out of my Manscaped.
Gotta have the censored censors all over. But
I think that's bad. You should have heard me as Samarjay Perine was turning into 2003 LaDainian Tomlinson out there.
Like I said, if you get the hang with me, anybody who knows me personally knows, like, I'm not that wild though during the games. I don't like them. Like the guy who always sits next to me, Miles, he brought a lady friend with him this time, so I was like, I have to be on my better behavior today. So it was like fewer, maybe half as many F-bombs as usual. But
I once had a buddy whose dad was like a Navy commander or whatever, and like he used to legit get angry at him when he would like swear in the presence of a female.
I like that though, especially if he's like a guy in uniform. How cool is that, man? It's just like
I don't
something
know if he
like
was in
out of
uniform ever, but yeah.
old school like type stuff. But anyways, that'll do it for us. Thanks, Flash, for joining me once again. I know these are painful to do, and not trying to be an apologist or anything like that. And got to wait through all the other games that are being played this week now because of Turkey Day. You'll have a few of those on Thursday, and then the Steelers get to play the Monday nighter on the road in Indianapolis. So that kind of throws off our whole schedule because it's usually you and me on Monday morning. So we'll see when you and I get together and do a little bit of a pregame. I'm sure everyone else is going to be just as busy as we are. So just keep an eye out and take a look for our programming because it will be a little off schedule. And then we'll have one less day next week in order to cover everything else going into the Falcons game after that. So Steelers got a pair of games on the road. Both are indoors. That should benefit Matthew Wright at the very least. And I mean, still, he's about one of the bigger bright spots. And I still think Najee was enough of a bright spot. Everybody can't. It's not a video game playing on like rookie mode on Madden. Like there is reality to this stuff. Not everything is going to be perfect.
Najee looked good yesterday.
It's not going to be all perfection. And get these lumps through with Kenny because man, he stood tall in the pocket and took a shot on that one too. And it's just like I see enough of it where I think too many people are panicking because of the Ben thing. And we brought up Ben's stats a while ago. I don't think that'd be kind of funny if I still do have. I do. I still have them in the archives here. If you're watching this on the old YouTube, maybe I should put this out on our social media as well. But 18 to 31. This was an average per game before this last game or so, and it was just passing. It was Ben Roethlisberger's first 3 seasons, and then Kenny Pickett to date, and it was like pick this out of the crowd. The guy who's throwing 58%, 63, 66, 66, and around 200 yards per game. Same thing with like the interceptions. You got a 1.5 interception per game, 1.6 interceptions per game, about 2 sacks per game. Those numbers across the board look almost identical. Try picking Kenny Pickett's year out of those. It's just that, Ben had a better team around him, and you can't just rely on only the rookie quarterback to do it. I think another thing too that I've considered is it's like one of those shower thoughts where you're in the shower and the hot water's hitting you, and in the cold weather era now, and your brain's thawing out, right? And I'm like, Steelers didn't have very good quarterback play when Ben Roethlisberger came around. So the bar was set very low for him to come in and just kind of step right over it. Cordell Stewart, Kent Graham, Tommy Maddox, Mike Tomczak, probably missing someone along the line there. And
Pete Gonzalez.
No, he's in the XFL again now. Oh no, Luis Perez. Sorry, close enough. Luis Perez actually is. It's like this has got to be like his 4th go around with like these, I guess, minor league football you would call it or something like that. Martavis Bryant.
I'm pretty sure the Raiders or Rams signed him last year as a backup. But yeah, he's back in the XFL. He's a goat, XFL goat.
He really is. But yeah, the bar was set way lower than what it is for Kenny Pickett expectations coming in to fill Ben Roethlisberger's shoes. So I think our opinion of what a quarterback can or should be is way up here versus when Ben was a rookie, it was way down here. So Ben didn't have to do a whole lot, and they won games, but a lot of times it was like, again, like I said, in spite of him. Need some help on the defense.
Sure, dude. The Steelers have the 8th pick right now, so they wouldn't be getting CJ Stroud or Bryce Young anyway. And most people think the 3rd best quarterback in the draft is Will Levis, and he's played like shit this year. That's just how it is. So, I wouldn't want Will Levis or Levi's anyway, and they're not going to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. So
Will Levis struggled against my alma mater, Youngstown State, which
is
an
FCS
bad program.
All year. I've been trying to figure out why people think he's like.
They say he's hurt. They say maybe he's hurt. Maybe that's why he's not playing. It's like a physical traits type thing. So his hands are bigger than Kenny Pickett. So then automatically he's going to make him a better pro football player. I mean, if it didn't hit you over the head just yet, Joe Burrow also has quote tiny hands. I get hit. Here's the other one. Does this bother you too? Kenny doesn't have enough zip on the ball.
Yeah, I don't understand that one because that's one of the hardest things to measure just sitting at home watching on your couch. I'm not really too alarmed by it because the ball's getting into tight window. He's putting windows and he's putting it where it needs to be. I think his zip on the ball is just fine. And Shady McCoy, actually, LaShawn McCoy, was just on TV a couple of days ago talking about how he doesn't see much of a difference at all in the way that Joe Burrow and Kenny Pickett play, coincidentally.
Yeah. The
He's not the
difference.
first to say that. A lot of us believe that they have similarities, but he was just the most recent on TV to point out how they have similar game.
By the way, Pickett finished 25 of 42, like I said, 59.5 completed, 265 yards, touchdown pass, 85.9 rating. He was a George Pickens drop away from 2 touchdown passes and over 300 yards passing, which would have definitely solidified his best game to date as a rookie. Like I said, that's almost on the mark. Burrow was 24 of 39, so just 1 fewer completion on 3 fewer attempts, but 355 yards and the 4 touchdowns because guess what? He was just dumping it off to his running back, Captain Checkdown, if you want to call him something like that. I know people won't because they got the job done. They got the dub. So just
the RJ PPR Ryan is more like it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a killer. But I don't know. Didn't Tony Pollard have like 2 catches of 60 plus yards or something, or 40?
Yeah, I have him in Dynasty. Yeah, he did good.
Just ridiculous. How about them Cowboys? Ugh, that makes me want to vomit. Anyways, you could rest assured knowing that most people did not see what the Steelers did yesterday because that game was on instead as the Cowboys smoked the Vikings, unless they changed the coverage over after that. So at least you didn't have to deal with that. You didn't have somebody come into your house and beat you like 40-3 or whatever. Yeah, 40-3 was that final score. So anyways, we're up against it. Thanks, my dude, for joining us, and we'll see what happens after we carve the turkey. So have a happy Thanksgiving. And as always, folks, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and especially so if you're out there doing any partying or whatever, an Uber's a lot cheaper than the other alternatives. So just keep that in mind. And until next time, my name's Joe. His name's Zach. We encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.